Welcome to our KET Online Campus Facilitator Webinar. This is meant to cover some of the things facilitators see and need on a regular basis within our courses in Moodle, and give you a chance to ask questions and let us know later if there's anything you need. We'll have lots of ways of contacting us and getting in touch with us. So thank you for being with us today. Thank you for watching our presentation, and thank you especially for being with us as facilitators. We really appreciate all the ways you help make what we do successful. My name is Abby Lane. I'm the Arts and Humanities instructor here, so I teach arts and culture. I'm joined by Clay Rice, our digital assistant, who has also worked as a German tutor, and he's going to help steer this webinar. Also joining us is our program manager, Beth Gauntz. So she'll be available. Beth, do you want to introduce yourself and say hello?
Thank you, Abby. I am so delighted that you all are here today to watch this webinar and to get the resources that we're providing for you in order to make your students' experience the best it can be. We want to make sure that you know we are here to help you, as Abby said, within just a moment's notice. And we want to keep those lines of communication always open so that you never find yourself in a situation where you need a resource or you don't know where something is. Let us know. We'll be happy to help you.
Okay, and also joining us are Latin instructor Ben Patterson and German instructor John Kruger, and they'll be talking in just a little bit about some specific issues related to their language courses. So we'll start with a quick overview. These are our current offerings. One of the ideas of using our courses is that you don't necessarily have to have a German teacher or Chinese teacher in your building to have students in your classroom learning those subjects. You might have any number of different situations. Students who need the arts graduation requirement but don't want to take studio art or can't fit it into their schedule or want to take it for college credit, or maybe just a handful of students who want to take Latin, or students with any kinds of non-traditional needs or schedules. As you can see, we offer dual credit options in all subjects through Moorhead State. This is a great benefit for students who meet certain guidelines. They need to be juniors or seniors with qualifying test scores. One thing that sometimes confuses schools the first time they do dual credit, and you can let us know if you have any questions about it, is that to take one of our courses for dual credit, which is an incredible deal, the school needs to register the student with us and then register them for the course separately with the MSU Early College Program and pay their tuition fee to them. So once the student is registered both places, they take the course entirely with us and communicate entirely with us, and we report their grades to MSU at the end of the term so that they can get their college credit. Here are a few more things to know about us as we get started. Quality and student success are extremely important to us, and we are constantly updating and improving our courses and online tools. We offer individual live tutor sessions and language practice, and we are easily reachable by schools and students anytime. We will talk a little bit more about live sessions coming up. Also, we love to visit schools. Your KET instructor may reach out to you, or you can contact us about possibly setting up a visit where we come meet the students in person, let them see that we're real people who read all their work and get to know them through the course. Usually we have some one-on-one interaction with students, and we might do some lessons or activities or just give them a chance to ask questions and talk to us. But we find that this is really beneficial in making a personal connection with the students. So you see, online campus meets the calendar and academic approach of individual schools. In practical terms, this means that we start courses when you need them. You don't have to time anything in your schedule to line up with ours. If you have a third trimester course that starts on February 15th and ends on May 30th, you could sign up now and we'd make a customized course that starts and ends on those dates. Courses can be taken over a single semester, a full year, a block schedule. It just depends on the course and the needs of the students and the amount of time they get in class time. So what we need from you to best make this work is those start and end dates and all the student enrollment info so they're ready to go on the first day, and any breaks or days off or missed days, and then the date that you need grade reports. We usually need a few days to grade all of the student work at the end of a term. So if you know that you have to have a grade report turned in on the last day of school, we may need to work together to set a deadline for work a little bit before that, and then make sure that we give the students plenty of notice about that so that they know what their actual deadline for work is well in advance. And here's the basic procedure for registering. I won't go over this in too much detail since clearly you're registered if you're a facilitator. But know that our registrar, Linda Hofacker, is the one who answers our 800 number and does all the enrollment work. So she can answer questions about any of this. You can reach her through the website you see here. The website has lots of information about our courses, and we'll also make sure to get you that 800 number again at the end. But during the registration process, you will have a chance to put in all those dates and how you want grades reported and that sort of thing. So let's take a quick look at course navigation. This is a view of what you see when you first log into a Latin course. At the top, you'll have our logo, which links back to the main page. On the right, up at the top, you'll also have your account drop-down. Up there. This is where you'll be able to get to grades and logs as a facilitator by that little profile picture, and also update your profile, add your own profile picture. So that's an important part of the navigation, and probably the one that you'll use the most to check things that you need. The envelope up at the top right is your messages. This is a closed, secure messaging system between instructors, facilitators, and students. We use this messaging system as teachers as our primary way of reaching individual students, and they access their messages in this exact same way. Click the envelope, you'll select Inbox to see incoming messages, or Compose if you or they need to reach us or ask a question. There will be a little notification indicator up there if there are unread messages in the inbox. And notifications are also sent to the registered email address. It'll just tell you that you have a message when you get that email, and then there's a link that you click where you'll log in and see the actual message. At the top of the left side menu, you'll find the main course menu. We sometimes refer to this as menu topics, which is the name of this particular navigation system. Different courses are organized a little bit differently, but generally this is how a student will move through a course. It has the main sections of the course with submenus for getting to specific lessons or content. The first thing they'll do in every course is the course orientation. Some facilitators log into their courses a lot, others don't really tend to do that as much. But please, if you haven't, make sure that you go through the orientation. It has a lot of info about how the courses work and what's expected, and it answers a lot of the questions that you or students might have. Students will have to pass a short quiz about what's in the orientation and digitally sign a couple of agreements at the beginning of the term in order to open the next thing in the course. In my class, Arts and Culture, it has 12 units and approximately 5 lessons per unit. So the main menu only has 3 main items: the orientation and reference information, the resources, which includes a course glossary of important terms, links to the live sessions, and links to student blogs. And then the third is course content, where all of the units and lessons are found. They're subdivided into 4 modules, and each module has 3 units and end of unit review activities. So you click a unit to get to the individual lessons. Here in Latin that we're looking at, you can see that it's divided into units and chapters, so a similar idea. You hover over one of the units to see a submenu and get to individual content and just move through the course that way. Underneath the main navigation window over on the left, you'll see calendar and milestones. This gives you a very quick view of what unit or lesson or activity a student should be on at that moment, ideally according to their calendar. And then if you click it, it gives a nice calendar view of how the course aligns. There we go. There's one of how the course aligns with the school calendar and any deadlines or due dates. So you can see in this example, students should be on Unit 4 from November 14th through November 30th, and it shows you when there's no class, and they can access where they're supposed to be. At the top of the main content area here, you'll find course announcements. This is the current message from the instructor to all students that's updated at least weekly with any important information or any extra fun stuff the instructor wants to draw students' attention to. And then below that, you will find the actual course material, what the student is actually working on at the time. It could be a reading or activity within a lesson, or in this view, it's a link to a Latin tutoring session. So when a student has a Latin tutoring session scheduled, they'll come here and use these links to join a private Zoom session with their teacher or tutor. If you haven't used it, Zoom is a very simple and easy to use conferencing tool that allows for video chat, instant messaging, screen sharing, and we use it for all our tutoring sessions and our drop-in office hours. It needs to be downloaded and installed the first time it's used on any computer or device, which you may have had to do, but you should just be aware of that. Be ready to help students with it or doing it in advance, but it's just a tiny file and only takes less than a minute to get going the first time. And after that, it'll just open up automatically when you click the link. So when students click this link, it'll just open up the window to their live session or their meeting. And we'll talk more about those live sessions in just a few minutes. So here are some of those things that you can see from the drop-down menu on your account up at the top, your grades and logs. This will be the options that you see when you click that little arrow by your profile. So if you choose a course and grades, that will take you to the course's gradebook, which has a few options for different views that we'll look at. And choosing course logs will take you to detailed logs of different activities. Grades has information that you will probably want to be able to access anytime. Logs is more useful for very specific purposes. Say if you need to see whether a particular student clicked on a particular page or activity. It's most often used if there's some question about whether a student has done something or if there's some reason to suspect an honor code issue, which we will also talk about in just a minute. But here's what a log page might look like. You can use the drop-down menu at the top of the log page to select individual courses, individual students, groups of students, and then whether you want to see everything in that category in reverse chronological order or just activities from a specific day. In this example, we're looking at the most recent activity in a course by a single student. So as you can see, we've got the exact time and date, the student name, the page or activity they were on, the action, their ID, the kind of device they're using, and the IP address. So again, we can see this for students all the time, and you can access this too. This is especially useful if there are any questions that come up about whether a student claims to have done something that the teacher didn't receive, or students are sharing work or accounts or doing anything else that raises honor code-like concerns. We have a lot of tools for keeping records and answering questions and getting to the bottom of things. You can also access the gradebook anytime from this profile dropdown. Once you're in the gradebook for a class, you'll need to choose the view you want and then whether you want to see an individual student or the full list of students in that group. In my view, the course summary report is going to be your most useful choice most of the time. If you choose course summary report from the menu at the top middle of the gradebook, you will see a list of students in that course, when they last logged in, when they last submitted an assignment, the percentage of the work due so far that they've completed, and their percentage score for that work. So it's just a perfect snapshot of where all the students are and how they're doing at that moment. So that's a great thing to check regularly. For more detailed information for individual students and to see what they actually see when they look at the gradebook, your next option is the Date Range User Report tab. So if you choose that tab up at the top in the middle, you can then choose individual students from a drop-down menu over at the top right and see their scores on individual assignments and activities. if you choose the detailed view. And depending on the course, you might see them divided by categories of activities like homework, participation, quizzes. You might see feedback. I actually use the feedback in my course. So over under feedback, you would see some comments on a lot of the different kinds of assignments. So if a student came to you and asked why they missed points on a specific writing assignment, you could check and tell them what you see there and point that out to them. But also, I'd be happy to talk to them, so have them ask me too, but that's where that would be found. When we send a progress report or end of term report, it will look a lot like what you see when you check the course summary report in the gradebook. Here's an example from a Spanish course. The current course percentage will be the last numerical column. You can compare the course completion percentage to the grade and see whether a student might have a low grade because they've only completed 70% of the work due at that point, or if they've completed 90% of the work but only have a 60% score, then we know there's probably an issue with either the quality of work that a student's doing or with the student's understanding. We do our best to work with individual students on those issues constantly, but you as facilitators are our partners in that. So being able to talk to you about it is really helpful for reaching a student who might be embarrassed about responding to us. Sometimes we've had students who the facilitator tells us they were just embarrassed to reach out to us, but the facilitator helped make that connection so that we could talk to them and help them. A student might be having technical issues or something else going on that you can help us better understand and then hopefully better help them get on track. To that end also, if you have IEPs or 504s on file for any students, you can indicate that on the secure enrollment forms. Please provide our registrar, Linda Hofacker, with details privately as soon as you're able. While there are some accommodations that can't be met in an online course, we do our best to work with you and with students to meet individual needs. And we will meet all WCAG accessibility standards at level 2. This is an example of when communication between the KET instructor and you as a facilitator is especially important. And that, again, is what it all boils down to. Our biggest ask of you is that you communicate with us, and anytime you think there's something we can do to help a student succeed or notice a concern on your end, reach out to us and let us know, and be there if we have trouble reaching a student and need to use you to get to that student. Just a couple more things to cover, and we'll hear from a couple of our teachers. Back to the honor code for a quick review of that. This is the honor code that students digitally sign before they can begin the first unit or lesson in a course. This is another area where that communication with you as the facilitator and with the school is really important. Honor code violations can be anything from copying part of an assignment from a website or another student, working too closely with a classmate when they're supposed to be doing something on their own, using translators to complete activities and language courses, up to copying full assignments from each other or from somewhere else, sharing accounts, sharing info and answers, and so forth. Our general procedure is to first explain the issue to a student and use it as a teaching opportunity. They'll be told that they need to redo an assignment on their own or in their own words or using proper citation, as the case may be. Then if it happens again, we'll contact you and just work together on an agreement on consequences and a plan for any future issues. Then on subsequent violations, we recommend giving the student a 0 for that activity with no further attempts. But we will follow your school's policy on academic dishonesty. So we need to talk about how we should do that. In arts and culture, we have a lot of short writing and blog assignments, and students sometimes just struggle to understand that just because most of a paragraph is in their own words, it's still not okay to paste in actual sentences from Wikipedia or somewhere else without citing that and letting you know that they're doing it. They're expected to use their own examples and original responses. So I'll try to catch that and warn them as early as I possibly can to keep them from getting themselves in trouble with that. Because a lot of times they just aren't really savvy about what they can do. But a lot of times also, they'll just try to see what they can get away with. And they kind of don't realize that it's real people reading their work. It feels very anonymous for them to be in an online course, especially for the first time sometimes. So that's an area where it's really helpful to make that personal connection and let them know that we're really here reading their work. For quizzes and other types of assignments, if we have reason to suspect that students are working together when they shouldn't be, or using someone else's account, or doing anything to try to circumvent the system for doing our work, that's when those logs become very useful. So we'll include those or reference those when we reach out to you and let you know if someone's having a problem with that. In the world language courses, some of the teachers have different policies about students working together, but the use of online translators for anything other than looking up a word they don't know can be a big issue. I know in Spanish, sometimes it's been an issue where students will use tenses and terms that haven't been covered in the course yet, and it makes it really obvious. So instead of just pasting a question or a topic or a sentence into Google Translate or any sort of online translator, students will not get credit for doing that, and it's obvious when they're doing that. They need to do their own work, and we're here to help them do that. In Latin, it works a little bit differently, but I'd like to let our Latin instructor, Ben, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thanks, Abby. Just like a quick note about translators in Latin, the technology is not advanced very far in online translators for Latin, perhaps not as much as for the other world languages. And so, yeah, I mean, it honestly doesn't even produce very good quality translations anyway. So just like what Abby said, it's always obvious to us when a student has tried to use a translator to do their work, and of course we want them to use their skills and to show their knowledge, not the knowledge of some online translator. So in Latin courses, I mean, not even just to look up a single word, students shouldn't ever be consulting online translators. Back to you, Abby.
Sure. John, do you have anything you want to add about translators? And unmute so you can hear you.
Right. Okay, I think I'm unmuted now. Thank you. Yes, I would agree with what you've said. It's, first of all, it's very tempting for students to use them. They're on the computer anyway, and it's oh so tempting to translate something. Translating one word in an assignment is usually okay. For German, it's like using a dictionary, but it's also tempting to, what about if I would put that whole paragraph in there? And with Google Translate and other platforms, they allow you to do that. The problem is it comes out being very bad language, or bad as far as poor grammar or whatever. And it's very noticeable to us that that's not your own work. So we basically say that you may look up single words for an assignment, not for an assessment, not for a test, but for an assignment. And stay away from the translators for anything sentence length or longer. So that's our, it's a little bit different than Latin, but I would say probably pretty much the same as what the Spanish teacher would agree to as well. Back to you.
All right, thank you, John. So if you notice students using translators, that's something to talk to them about and to talk to the teacher about. It's also important to emphasize to students that they are responsible for their accounts and logins. They'll need to log out every time they leave a computer or device so that somebody can't get in there and see their answers and use their work. And that also includes for their blog account in arts and culture. And sharing their login with another student would obviously be a major violation. So if you have a group in a computer lab or a classroom, it's probably a good idea to remind them, at least the first week or so of class, to log out when they're getting ready to leave. Live sessions. As we talked about, we use Zoom, this very program for live sessions, and the Zoom chats can be accessed from within the courses. Different courses use live sessions in different ways. Some are scheduled weekly for conversation practice in languages. Others are scheduled with students as sort of office hours meetings or for group discussion or some other use. One of the biggest ways we use them, especially in world languages, is for tutoring sessions. So I want to let a language teacher talk again and tell you a little bit more about that. John, can you talk about tutoring sessions in German?
Yes, I'd be glad to. Tutoring is really one of the main components of our course, or one of our most popular components, because students get to work with language mentors. Usually the tutors we have here are university students, so they've been learning the language as well, and there's a lot that they have in common with our students. So it turns out to be a really good way to learn, and also a fun experience in that the students are talking to someone that is also learning and has been learning German, so they can really connect with them there. The live sessions we have in German are twice a week, and they're a big component of the course, like I said. And it also gives the students a chance to ask any questions they might be having. They can do that at any time. Of course, they can send a message, but while they're tutoring, they can do it. And also look at this Zoom platform. It's just excellent quality. It's as if you're there in the room with the person. So I think the technology really brings a lot of the excitement of bringing the teacher to you. That's what Zoom does for us. So we're very excited about that, and we've enjoyed it this year, having it. Back to you.
Thank you, John. Ben, do you want to add anything about how Latin uses live sessions?
Sure. We don't have required weekly tutoring sessions like John was talking about in German, but we do offer one-on-one tutoring sessions as needed, and we encourage students to schedule those and to ask for those whenever they feel like it would be helpful. In addition to that, we do have regularly scheduled what we call drop-in office hours at various times throughout the week. And these are times where students don't have to pre-register or register for it. They just kind of drop in at the right time and kind of get an opportunity to interact with a tutor or with me about some of the content from the course. And I love doing that. When I was a student myself in KET's Latin course, I was sitting by myself in the library day after day, and it felt kind of isolating. So I love being able to offer these elements of the course that support a sense of, a sense that you're not alone, that you have the support that you need, that you can reach out and interact with your instructor, your tutors, and ask questions and get help when you need it. So we do offer that in Latin.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, that's a great point. We think one of the things that really sets our program apart is that access to teachers and personal communication with teachers and tutors. And we're just about ready to wrap up. If you're a current facilitator, you probably know our website. You can find lots of information about our courses there. But write down these phone numbers and keep them handy. Our registrar, Linda Hofacker, will be your go-to for enrollment, billing, login questions, accounts, grade reports, all that important stuff. This is the 800 number that you'll find all over our site. It's a good one to keep handy. 800-333-9764. You can also email her at lhofacker, LHOFACKER @KET.org. You can reach out to our program manager anytime, and she'll be glad to talk to you. Beth Gauntz, her email is bgaunce@ket.org, and her phone number is 859-258-7266. Also, please reach out to your KET instructor anytime. We're the ones you'll be in communication with for most day-to-day regular activity, a student has a question, a student's having trouble with something, or if we want to ask you why a student maybe hasn't logged in all week, if they've been absent or what's going on, you can email us, call us, message us from that envelope icon at the top of the course. You can always find our contact info in the orientation section of the course. And you can also reach out to Linda, whose information is right here, and she'll get you in touch with us. We would also love to have you friend or follow or join us on Facebook or Twitter. We're under KET Online Campus on both those platforms, and we'll periodically post news and announcements and photos from school visits and shout outs to schools and students, stories or links or fun stuff that relates to our courses and subjects, things happening in digital learning in Kentucky and around the world, and all sorts of things like that. So please join us there too. We just want to thank you again for joining us, for watching this webinar, and for being facilitators with our program, for all the work you do to help students be successful and to have these new opportunities to take different kinds of courses and different subjects and online classes, and for partnering with KET. And we just want to remind you to reach out to us anytime. Call, message if you have any questions. We're here to help you and your school and your students, and we appreciate this partnership. So thanks so much for joining us. Bye.